The Zoning Board of Appeals is a 9-person volunteer board nominated by the mayor and approved by City Council. First, we will hear from Planning Services, represented tonight by John Barrett. Then the applicant or their representative will make their presentation. Applicants will have 5 minutes in which to make their presentation. Staff will keep time and will announce when 30 seconds are remaining. Public comment is available in person or remotely. We will first call on individuals present to address the board, then remote participants. To speak during a public hearing or during public comment remotely, press star 9 if listening by phone, or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link. For phone access, call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 938-1648-1007. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand using the last 3 digits of their phone number or by name if available for those accessing through the web link. You will hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. When speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any television or background sounds. We may ask questions of either the city or the applicant. We will acknowledge any written comments received by the board. We will allow an appearing party to express their support or objections. The board will then discuss the appeal and formulate a motion to approve that appeal. 5 affirmative votes of the board will be required for an appeal to be granted. Finally, any qualified party who is aggrieved by a decision of the board can appeal that decision to the Washtenaw County Circuit Court in a timely basis. Roll call. Candace Breyer, I am here. Todd Grant.
I am here.
Dave DeVarty.
Here.
Chris Madigan.
Here.
Sadira Clark. Grace Whitney.
Here.
Mike Daniel.
Here.
Dharma Ackman.
Here.
Christina Glusak.
Here.
We have a quorum. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any comments on the agenda? I will note that the second item on our agenda tonight, petition ZBA 23-0023, 416 Longshore Drive, has been withdrawn by the petitioner. So we will not be hearing that case tonight or taking any action on that. If there is anyone who was here to speak on that or who's accessing remotely that wanted to speak on that, you, of course, are welcome to still do so, but that petition has been withdrawn. Also, I'll note briefly that our first petition, ZBA 23-0021, 700 Pauline Boulevard, I will need to recuse myself because of a conflict of interest, so Todd will be taking over the reins for that one. There's no other comments. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you, Mike. Support? Thank you, Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to approval of minutes. We have minutes from the August 23rd, 2023 ZBA meeting. Are there any questions, comments, corrections on those minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve those minutes? Thank you, Grace. Support? Thank you, Chris. All in favor? Opposed? All right, moving on to public hearings. Petition ZBA 23-0021, 700 Pauline Boulevard. I'm going to step out. Todd can take over.
See you in a minute. Thank you, John. So calling the first item of business, 700 Pauline Boulevard, ZBA number 23-0021. We will hear from John Barrett.
All right, good evening. My name is John Barrett. I'm the zoning coordinator for the city of Ann Arbor. Don Thomas, property owner, is requesting variances of 2 inches from section 5.16.6, subsection 2D, accessory uses and structures to allow an existing garage addition to be 2 feet 10 inches from the side lot line and a 290 square foot variance from section 5.16.6 subsection 2D as well to allow the attached garage addition to exceed the allowed 35% rear setback area with a structure. A third variance of 10 feet is being requested from table 5.17-1 single-family dwelling district to allow an existing deck to encroach into the front setback. The variances would allow the garage addition to be used as an approved accessory dwelling unit. The property is zoned R1D Single Family Dwelling District. The subject property is located at the northeast corner of Pauline Boulevard and 5th Street in the Almendinger Heights neighborhood. The home was built in 1940 and is approximately 750 square feet in size. The property received a building permit on November 6, 1967 for a flat roof addition to the existing detached garage for a workshop. The addition is approximately 468 square feet in area. The addition has been converted to habitable space that requires variances to make the addition conforming for setbacks and the allowable impervious area exceeding the maximum 35% maximum in the rear yard. The exterior deck serves as an amenity area to the proposed accessory dwelling unit and will not be altered. There are no proposed changes to the footprint of the structure. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, you'll see the subject property highlighted in yellow. As I stated, it's at the corner of Pauline and 5th, directly across the street from Almendinger Park. The next slide is the aerial photo showing surrounding properties and existing conditions. And the next slide is the zoomed in aerial photo, and you can see the detached garage, the gabled roof, the original structure, and then the flat roofed, as I mentioned, addition, and the proximity to the side lot line is, the distance is 2 feet 10 inches, so that 2-inch variance request on that. And then, as you can tell, the structure exceeds the allowable 35% in the back 20 feet of the rear yard. The next slide is the survey that was submitted with the application. You can see that the hatched-in area is the rear yard setback, the back 20 feet, and this is the portion that's in the exceeding the 35%. You also have the 12.5 foot by 12 foot deck encroaching into the front setback, and it shows that it's 7.2 feet from the front lot line. And then you have the 2 feet 10-inch setback with the side over here in this back corner. The next slide is a floor plan that was submitted with the application of the addition area. And you can see the driveway is here, and then the deck is right here, and then you have the living area inside the, within the area of the flat roof addition. These are the photos that I took at my inspection of the property. You see the front of the home from Pauline. This is looking down 5th to the north. And you see the side yard of the front setback of the property along the side of the home. This is a picture of the existing gabled garage, and then the flat roof addition is in the back. And that's just a little bit better photo of the two of the one structure, but the addition to the side of the garage. This is the deck that is encroaching into the front setback as it exists. This is the relationship on the north side of the property and the north side of the addition of the garage. And you see the neighbor's fence, and then the relationship between the two properties and the proximity and the house, the adjacent property to the north and the kind of in the background there. These are some photos I took, the owners and I met, and they showed me the interior space just to get a little perspective on what it currently looks like and how it's been finished. And this is the rear of the principal dwelling, the home. And then let's turn around looking at the south elevation of the garage. And you see the an entrance to the back of the dwelling and the flat roof. That concludes my presentation, and I will take any questions that you have at this time.
Yes, Grace.
Turn this on. So there's no changes being made to the footprint of the structure. They just need a variance to convert it to habitable space. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay.
an ADU is, in order to do an accessory dwelling unit, it's required to be in a conforming structure. And so if the variances are approved, that would make this a conforming structure.
Dharma.
So is the garage conforming in the way that it is right now with the deck?
Would
No.
the whole structure right
Yeah,
now?
the structure is non-conforming
Did not-
today.
Correct.
Okay.
That's why they need these variances. But like I said, it was, the addition was permitted in 1967 prior to these requirements. And so now these requirements, it doesn't meet the requirements of the current ordinance. And so in order to make, if they want to convert this to an ADU and get it certified with our rental housing department, that would be required to get these variances tonight.
Dave.
So John, that flat roof section which was added on, that was done in 1957?
1967,
67?
correct.
And that met building,
Yes,
Department requirements,
it received a building permit from our department.
even with that side setback? I mean, it's only 2 inches.
Yeah.
Okay.
There wasn't a site plan submitted. Back then, wasn't even a building permit number. It was basically an index card.
So I have two questions, John.
Yes.
I'm a little confused about timeline. First of all, my first question is, are we being presented with a fait accompli? The construction's already done, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. My second question is, why isn't this simply an alteration to a non-conforming structure if you're taking the existing interior space and adding some furniture and converting it to an ADU?
Because that would be, an alteration would not make this a conforming structure. Only the variances will make it conforming.
Okay, I guess I do have a third question, just to confirm. I think the applicant said that the property was in its current state when they purchased it. Is that true?
According to my conversation with the applicant, yes, but you might want to ask them as well.
Okay, interesting, all right. So, go ahead, Dave.
One more question. So the 35% area, does that take into account the space between the garage and the home?
No. The 35% is the rear setback area, which is the width of the rear lot line times it by 20 feet, which is the setback. So any structure from that 20-foot setback towards the rear of the home, and I'll show you with my cursor on the screen. So from that dashed line to the home, that area is not counted. It's this section right here, that you can't exceed 35% with the structure. That's how it's determined in the code.
So
It's called a
I
rear, it's
guess
called a rear
along-
setback area.
I know this is already built, but hypothetically, if it weren't, and they were coming to us to build it, if they put this hatched area, the flat roof area attached to the garage, but between the house and the garage instead of away from the house,
On the south side,
yeah, would they need a variance?
they would not. But
Okay,
like I said, this requirement
already-
wasn't in part of the ordinance in 1967.
understood.
Great.
So is there a reason why the ADUs are required to be in a conforming structure? Like, I'm just kind of wondering why that's the case, and since this is an existing structure that's already there, why it's just
So the
weird to me.
ADU ordinance for the city of Ann Arbor was adopted in 2018. And so generally, most of them are new structures. And so when you build a new structure, they have to be conforming. And if they are going to be in a non-conforming structure, they either have to make them conforming by possibly demolition or some type of alteration to the structure, or come to the board and seek a variance.
That seems kind of silly to me, but I understand the point.
Any other questions? All right, I guess we're done. Would now like to hear from the applicant, Mr. and/or Mrs. Thomas. Good
Do I
evening,
need
sir.
to sign in here?
Yes, please state your name and sign in, please.
Sure. Don Thomas, and my wife is Paula Thomas. I'll put the appeal number in. There was a question regarding the property was it existing as it is when we purchased it? And the answer is yes. I think that was yours, Grace. I really don't have anything more to add to the appeal. John covered everything. I think the primary factor is that it was constructed in 1967, and we don't intend to expand it or do anything of that nature. So it is what it is. And it does, you could see from the pictures, it does, the proximity to campus and the arrangement and the amenities that are in that, which is a bathroom, a shower, a kitchen area, and a living room, really would be ideal for an ADU. So.
Any questions of Mr. Thomas? Dave?
So, Mr. Thomas, is this intended to be a rental unit?
We had not intended to rent it at the time we purchased the house. We were going to have a relative living there, and those circumstances have changed. And in fact, we're having to sell the property. But since we started it back in, I think, July, and we had the boundary survey in place, we just decided to go ahead and finish it, which is this part of it.
So if it is a rental unit, would it be a short-term rental or like an Airbnb type thing?
It would be a habitable space for whatever period of time somebody, as we understand, it can't be used for Airbnb, short-term.
Yeah,
Minimum of 30 days.
Yeah, I'll add to that. ADUs cannot be rented for less than 30 days.
And have you worked with anybody familiar with the housing codes for rental housing?
We are familiar with some of the code, but it wasn't something we had looked into because it was going to be a family member and we weren't going to be renting it.
Well, I'd advise you on the bedroom. I don't believe that bedroom will comply with the housing code because of its size. I'm assuming there's a closet in there, which it'll have to have, but there's also a size issue.
Okay.
But that's for you going forward if you get this approval.
Thank you.
I do have a question, Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
So just to clarify what I thought you said, the sense is you're clearing this up, so to speak, because you intend to sell the property. Is that correct?
We are selling the property.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Is there anybody else in the room that would like to speak on this issue? All right. Are there any callers?
There are no callers.
All right. I'd like to point out that we do have one letter in support. You probably know about this, Mr. Thomas, from your neighbors, Lisa Road and Mary Butler.
Yes. What?
We actually have two. There was one in the packet as well. It's from Jim Lewis.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, John. All right. With that, the public meeting is closed and we're in discussion.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Grace.
I just want to say I support this, and I think it's very straightforward, and I think the way this ordinance is written that way, it seems kind of silly to me. The city is really focused on trying to increase housing and opportunities for housing, and this just seems like a kind of unnecessary barrier for people, so I don't know if that's something staff can consider, but I just.
Chris.
Second what Grace said. So I think we as a city, our ordinance created a non-conforming structure. Since I have an audience here with a member of our city council and multiple staff members, you don't have to make very sweeping changes to an ordinance to get more housing units, right? Little changes can make a big difference. And I think this is a really good example. It wouldn't take much staff time. It wouldn't take much conversation to just add a small provision to that ordinance to just say certain or all non-existing structures can be converted to this. It's a home. It's a home with direct access to green space. It's a home that's right on a bus line. And these, this couple has to spend thousands of dollars to get a survey and come get a variance for something that should just be approved by right, in my opinion. We don't need sweeping changes to a master plan. We don't have to do all this stuff. We can get more homes with small changes if we want. And I don't think it would take many resources. So anyways, the second one, Grace said.
Anyone else? Well, I guess we need a motion. Or Dave?
I'm somewhat troubled by this. It's something I'd like to vote for, but I also, looking at our variance requirements, I just don't see how it really meets any of them. To these 5 standards for, especially Chris, you're a stickler on this. If you could just pick one of those that it meets, it would help me to vote for this, which I'd like to do. But if it doesn't meet at least one of them, I don't think I can vote for it. Maybe you could help me out, or...
I could help one. The easy
Okay.
one, number 4, it was not self-imposed. They brought the property like this.
Well,
And John has said, it was approved by the city. And number 3, I think there's substantial justice, given that ADUs are au courant. They're something the city wants. So
I guess
it's a little stretch. I think
I
this
see,
is
I see
Sorry,
three, I see number 3.
Yeah.
And I'd be prepared to make a motion if people are
Okay,
okay with that.
go ahead.
ZBA 23-0021, 700 Pauline Boulevard. Based on findings and in accordance with the established standards for approval, specifically allowing the variance will result in substantial justice being done, considering the public benefits of the zoning ordinance, the practical difficulties that will be suffered by a failure to grant a variance, and the rights of others whose property would be affected by allowing the variance. The Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants a 2-inch variance for the northwest corner of the garage and a 290 square foot variance from the allowable 35% rear setback area. Both variances apply to section 5.16.6, subsection 2, subsection D, accessory uses and structures. A third variance of 10 feet from table 5.17-1, single-family dwelling district is granted as well to allow an existing deck to encroach into the required front setback. The garage addition is to remain in its current configuration with no further changes or alterations to the exterior of the structure.
Is there support?
Support.
Mike? Okay, and seconded? And good. Grace, all right. Ready to vote? Here we go. So Mike Daniel,
Yes.
Dave DeVarty.
DeVarty, yes.
I also vote yes. Chris?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
Dharma?
Yes.
And Sadira Clark?
Yes.
It carries. We, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, Christina.
Oh, and Christina, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes.
I failed to count. Sorry about that. So it's unanimous. Your variance requests are approved, sir and ma'am.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on. Petition ZBA 23-0023, 416 Longshore Drive. As I mentioned, this was withdrawn, but if there's anyone that wants to speak on this petition, now's the time. Do we have any callers?
There are no callers.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to petition ZBA 23-0024, 1033 East University Avenue. John?
Rob Fowler, representing the property owner, is seeking approval from section 5.32.2, subsection C, alteration to a nonconforming structure. The applicants are requesting to convert the basement into a 4-bedroom unit and to enclose the existing front porch to provide additional living space for the first floor unit. The roof will be altered by the addition of 3 new gables and a height increase for the 3rd floor unit. The existing 4-unit rental property contains 8 bedrooms. The alterations will increase the number of bedrooms to 17 while the number of units remain at 4. The property is zoned R4C Multiple Family Dwelling District and is non-conforming for lot area and the rear yard setback. The subject property is located on the northeast corner of East University and Prospect Street. The home was built in approximately 1901 and is 2,280 square feet in size. The existing rental property contains 4 units, 2 are efficiencies, and the other 2 are 1-bedroom with a maximum occupancy of 6 persons. The proposed changes will increase the first floor unit to 6 bedrooms, the second floor unit to 5 bedrooms, the 3rd floor unit to 2 bedrooms, and the new basement unit will contain 4 bedrooms. The only exterior changes will be made to the existing roof line. There are no changes being made to the footprint of the building, and the parking lot will remain in the same configuration. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, you see the first slide, the zoning map. You see the highlighted parcel in yellow at the center of the map. It's at the intersection of East University and Prospect Street. The next slide is the aerial map showing surrounding properties and current conditions. And the next slide is the zoomed in aerial photo of the subject property. And like I said, it doesn't meet the required lot area or the 30-foot rear setback for the district requirements. The next slide is the survey that was submitted with the application. The next slide shows the new first floor configuration, and like I said, it's going to have 6 bedrooms on the first floor. And the next slide is the new second floor renovation with a 5-bedroom unit. The new 3rd floor renovation will contain 2 bedrooms. And the new basement will contain 5 bedrooms. Excuse me, 4 bedrooms. The next slides are the elevations that were submitted with the application. You see this from the south elevation. This is from Prospect Street. The new north elevation on the other side of the home. And you see on the roof line, the proposed roof line changes. These are the new east and west elevations. The west one is looking directly at it from Prospect and East University, right at the intersection. And then the east elevation is the back of the home from the parking lot. These are the photos that I took of the property when I was at the site. You see the front of the home and the porch that is being proposed to be enclosed with the new habitable space for the first floor unit. This is the rear of the property. This is looking down the driveway out towards Prospect Street, excuse me, East University. And this is the neighboring properties. And this is the parking lot and the relationship to the neighbors to the east. Just another picture of the property from Prospect Street in the back of it and the side. This is part of the other side of the porch that's being proposed to be enclosed. And this is looking directly from the corner of the intersection of the street at the property. That concludes my presentation, and I will take any questions that you have at this time.
Thanks, John. Questions? Dave?
I've got a question about the enclosing the front porch. I know the city has adjusted its, given us more leeway for approving front porches, but if the front porch, does this front porch go in, would it be into an existing setback the
No.
way it is now?
No.
So if this were, if it came before us today to add to the front of this, it would all be within the setback requirement?
So that you could add to the front of it with a front porch, but you can't add to it with habitable space. So it meets the average front setback, the house right now, so they can enclose it, but they're not proposing any front porch to it.
Okay, but this front porch would become habitable space.
Correct.
Is
And it
the front porch within the setback?
No, it meets the average front setback right now. If it did not, then they would have to get a variance to enclose that front porch. But
Gotcha.
since it meets the average front setback, they can enclose it, and so there's no requirement that says you have to have a front porch.
And in fact, they could build above it as well, right?
They could go straight up, that's correct.
Yep, okay.
Any other questions for John? All right, if the applicant is here, if you'd like to come forward, please state your name for the record, sign in, you'll have 5 minutes.
Yes, my name's Rob Fowler. I'm representing the owners of 1033 ECU. We're right in the middle of Student House Haven down there. It's a big house, it's a big lot, there's parking, but there's just no density to that building. And we feel we can organize it better, make it better, while still keeping the existing exterior walls and the front roof line. So it's not a tear down, rebuild, it's, where we are altering the existing building. That's about the gist of it.
All right, thank you. Questions for the petitioner? Dave?
So, Mr. Fowler, I grew up in this neighborhood, albeit on the other side of Packard, and a lot of these porches that existed going back to when I was growing up in the 50s, 60s, and 50s and 60s, don't really have adequate footings or foundations. So if you're extending into habitable space.
Excavating a full basement underneath it.
So that's going to come off and you're going to excavate.
Yep.
And add basement space in addition.
And then the return on the prospect side, that will remain porch, so they have an entrance
Gotcha.
to get in.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
If there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this petition, I don't see anyone here in person, so if there's anyone who is viewing or accessing the meeting remotely, please press star 9 to raise your hand. Press star 9 if you've called in, or use the raised hand function if you're accessing via the web link.
There are no callers, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Hank. With that said, the public hearing is closed, and we are in discussion. Or maybe we're ready for a motion. Todd?
Yeah, I think we're all thinking the same thing. This is easy standard alteration to a non-conforming structure. That's my opinion.
I'll make a motion, but I'll also make a comment. They're not adding to the exterior, they're adding a significant number of bedrooms. I know the city, in its wisdom, infinite wisdom, is making it easier to do bedroom, like increase the number of units and the number of beds without, at the same time, they're diminishing parking standards. And I have a lot of trouble with that personally because I understand, and I live in this area still, not as close as I used to as I grew up. And parking is a huge, huge issue in this area. And I know there are people that believe pretty soon cars will go away and we won't have them and everybody will be riding bikes on the new bike lanes. I don't believe that's going to happen for another 15 or 20 years, if then. And I just want to put that out there. I'm going to vote for this. I think it's a good thing to increase density, but at the same time, I urge anybody providing housing, and I am a small-time landlord myself, to think about parking issues as well. And as people think that the students coming into town don't have cars, well, I think they're dreaming if they think
Drive
that's the
downtown State Street.
yeah. So, but said as I'm sure you're probably aware, and certainly there's going to be space here to have some parking, but you're significantly increasing the number of units, which I support. So I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Dave.
ZBA 23-0024, 1033 East University Avenue, alteration to a non-conforming structure. The Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants relief from Section 5.32.2, alteration to a non-conforming structure, to allow the basement to be converted to a 4-bedroom unit and to enclose the existing front porch to provide additional living space for the first floor unit. The roof line will be altered by the addition of 3 new gables and a height increase. The number of units for the property are to remain at 4. The interior alteration is to be constructed per the submitted plans.
I have a motion. Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you, Chris. Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
DeVarty, yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Grace?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Dharma?
Yes.
Sadira?
Yes.
The request is granted. Thanks, Todd. Moving on to unfinished business, we have none. New business, we have addressed. Communications, we have addressed. I don't know that we had any additional communications. Public comment. If there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak to the ZBA on anything at all, please call in now, or if you're accessing via the web link, press *9 to raise your hand. All right, thanks, Hank. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Chris. Support? Thank you, Grace. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
No.